I think something happened where you had a strong belief about something, and you was like
Yeah.
on the you know about so I guess
Yeah.
can you elaborate? Because I was trying to
Yeah.
figure the word. I'm like I know exactly what I'm talking. Because
Mhm.
I'm gonna tell you before you say that,
Mhm.
I was like, yo, that is dope. You said you literally like, all right, I went on this side, the radio side, the world side, and they was just like, nah,
Yeah.
we're not feeling what you're saying. You went to the Christian side, and they was
Yeah.
like, so it's like you're right in the middle. So I guess yeah, you can
Mhm.
explain that for people, man.
Yeah, yeah. So here in Atlanta, I have a mentor that he's been my mentor since I was 12 years old. His name is Ryan Cameron. And
Mm-hmm.
he's in the Georgia Broadcast Hall of Fame. He's the number one most celebrated, most recognized urban radio personality in the city of Atlanta. Been in radio for over 35 years now. And when I was with him and I was starting off in radio, I told him that everything I ever did was going to have to edify God. I said, if I do it, it's got to edify God.
Mm-hmm.
And so that was something that we were just like, when we started our show, we were like, no compromise. Nobody's coming in here and no one's ever going to move the needle on our faith. Our faith is always going to be centered on Jesus. Like if we can't say Jesus somewhere, if we can't tell the truth, we can't be in that space. And
Mm-hmm.
so we signed a major deal. They came after us. They saw line for line and they saw the buzz we were getting. And we signed a major deal with a big gospel channel, big gospel distributor. And this distributor put us on 80 radio stations at one time. So when I told you that we had reached that 200 mark,
Mm-hmm.
we had
Yeah.
120 on our own. And then this deal we signed brought in 80 FM radio stations across the country.
Nice.
And we were just like having these meetings before we signed the contract. Like, hey, do you know who we are? We're the track stars. We are Christian hip hop. We're not gospel. They're like, hey, we know, but you guys are the new voice of gospel. The gospel genre is getting older. They're starting to phase out. Younger
Mm-hmm.
people are starting to be added in. So we think you guys have what it takes to propel the genre to the next level. So we were like, all
Mm-hmm.
right, cool. So we sign on. We're excited. It takes about 6 weeks to get the contract done and get all our press and everything out and our press release done. And we sign on. And the very first week, I get a phone call like, "Hey, y'all are playing some real edgy hip hop, man." I had a couple of ladies call the station and tell us that the music is just a little too raspy, and we were like, "But we're coming on at like 8 o'clock at night on a Saturday. You
Mm-hmm.
know, why are they listening to gospel music and expecting it to be like their church gospel?" And
Mm-hmm.
that's what I was saying in my head. I didn't say that to them.
Yeah.
But then they were like, "Hey, can you tone down the Lecrae's and play more of the Ty Tribbett's and the Mary Marys and the Kurt Franklin stuff?" And we were like,
Mm-hmm.
"It's not really our thing, but we'll try." So my DJ, our DJ Jeremiah, he just went back and was like, "All right, let me find some songs where Lecrae has done stuff with, you know, gospel artists." So he
Mm-hmm.
picked up Lecrae, Mary Mary stuff. He picked up, um, you know, uh, Dietrich Haddon, working with other Christian artists and stuff like that. So we tried to pick up the more like edgier gospel.
Mm-hmm.
And that was cool. They were all right. But then that same week that we tried, the second week of the show, we discussed Beyonce's Lemonade album. And
Mm-hmm.
we talked about how Beyonce, at the end of the day, is not a good role model for Christian women, young ladies. And so they called me back that week and they said, "Hey man, we got some complaints that you were talking about the Beehive." It was like, yeah, like the
Mm-hmm.
Beyonce or whatever. And we were like,
Yeah.
yeah, we just basically said she's not a good look for a Christian young lady. You can't say that. And I said, I'm sorry. Say what?
Yeah.
And they were like,
Mm.
yeah, you can't talk about the Beyonce, man. The Beehive is listening. And we were like, but this is a gospel network. Like, aren't y'all more
Mm-hmm.
concerned about the truth of God and the gospel being preached than
Mm-hmm.
the listeners being upset? And they
Yeah.
were like, you can't talk about the Beehive, bro. And so we were just like, okay. And then they kind of sensed our frustration in it. And they were like, well, maybe this isn't a good fit. They were like, would you guys like to be let out your contract? And we were like, if it comes down to, you telling us that we can't talk about what we want to talk about, if you want to censor us and this is supposed to be the gospel, then yeah, we'll go ahead and back out the contract. So we canceled the contract.
Mm.
And it was the biggest opportunity we ever had at that time. Is what we thought, right?
Mm-hmm.
And little did we know that God had other plans to, you know, allow us to continue to grow organically the way we wanted to, and he would
Mm-hmm.
bless that too.